I'm Bob Hunter, Chairman of the North Carolina Property Tax Commission. Today we have with us Vice Chairman Terry Wheeler, Commissioner Alex Guest, Commissioner June Michaud. Commissioner Bill Peasley is not with us today. And we have our Secretary and General Counsel Steve Pelfrey, and Ms. Linda Garrett is our stenographer. We have two matters today on the agenda. I guess I'd point out that we have had probably, I can find the sheet here, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, looks like 7 cases probably that have been settled that were on the calendar for today or continued or withdrawn. The two cases that we have today is HMM Hospitality LLC, 19 Property Tax Commission 0450, and a motion to dismiss filed by Wake County and the Mary T. and Alicia S. Kokirk appeal, 20 Property Tax Commission 0502. Let me read this statement before we get into either one of those cases. In accordance with the State Government's Ethics Act, it is the duty of every commissioner to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of interest of conflict. Does any commission member have any known conflict of interest or appearance or conflict with respect to any matters coming before the commission today? Seeing none, that's taken care of. Mr. Murphy, we will hear from you and your motion to dismiss. 20 Property Tax Commission 0502.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commission members, Mr. Pelfrey, Ms. Garrett. My name is Ken Murphy. I am here representing Wake County in Wake County's motion to dismiss the appeal filed by Mr. and Mrs. Kochurik in 20 PTC 0502. This is a residential appeal, and this is the county's motion to dismiss this appeal for the taxpayers' failure to timely file their notice of appeal as required by General Statute 105-290 subsection E. As the Commission well knows, GS 105-290E requires that a notice of appeal to the Property Tax Commission be filed with the Commission within 30 days after the date that the County Board of Equalization and Review mailed notice of its decision to the property owner. And Commission members, quite simply, that did not happen in this case. I have filed a written motion to dismiss in this matter. Attached to that motion to dismiss is an affidavit from an employee of the Wake County Tax Administration Department, Mr. Charles Morton Parker, and in that affidavit, Mr. Morton Parker avers that he mailed the county board's notice of decision on October 6, 2020. That notice of decision from the county is attached as Exhibit A to the county's motion to dismiss. Now, the taxpayer in this matter filed their notice of appeal with the Commission more than 30 days later, on November 10th, 2020. The Commission's acknowledgement letter setting forth that is attached as Exhibit B to the county's motion to dismiss. So pursuant to GS 105-290E, the deadline for the taxpayers, Mr. and Mrs. Kochurik, to timely file their notice of appeal in this matter was November 5th, 2020. They did not, in fact, file their notice of appeal until November 10th, 2020. And the statute is clear also that a property owner who files an appeal with this commission has the burden of proof to prove that the appeal was timely filed. And Mr. Chair, you asked at the outset if I had had any communication with the Kochuriks. Not. I did serve them with a copy of the motion to dismiss, the county's written motion to dismiss that the commission has. I've not received any communication from the Kochuriks purporting to argue that their motion or that their notice was in fact timely filed. I do not believe that they're present this morning to make any such argument. So, commission members, I would submit to you that our Court of Appeals has very clearly held in the Bass Income Fund case that this commission has no jurisdiction to hear an appeal where the notice of appeal is not timely filed. All the evidence in this matter is that the notice of appeal was not timely filed in this matter. There has been no evidence submitted arguing anything to the contrary. So in light of all that, commission members, Wake County respectfully requests that this commission dismiss the taxpayer's appeal in this matter 20 PTC 0502 for failure to timely file their notice of appeal. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commission may have. Mr. Chair, I believe you may be muted.
Mr. Pelfrey, can you speak to us about any notices that were given to the Kochuriks? I mispronounced their name on the agenda. It doesn't have that E in there, and I noticed Mr. Murphy's pronunciation, and I checked, and there is an E in it, so it's Kochurik as he pronounced it. I'm sorry for mispronouncing.
Mr. Chair, I may very well be mispronouncing it myself.
No, it's sure. On our agenda, it didn't have the E, and I was using that when I was reading it, so that's a minor thing. Mr. Pelfrey, and I assume Ms. Mendette, that there's no one on that would be appearing for Mr. or Mrs. Kochurik?
No, sir, it doesn't appear to be so.
Okay. Mr. Pelfrey?
Mr. Chairman, we have received nothing further from the appellants in this matter, nothing in regard to today's hearing, and by letter dated March 30th, 2021, all parties were notified of today's hearing.
Okay, questions from commissioners? Hearing none, do I have a motion? Mr. Guest moves that we grant Wake County's motion to dismiss this matter. 20 Property Tax Commission 0502, seconded by, where's my second? Oh, there it is. Okay, I couldn't see your hand, Ms. Michaud. It was blacked out by the box that surrounds, or the rectangle that surrounds you. Excuse me. With the phone, we get a different shot of you than we do the others, so it's only getting basically your shoulders and head. All right. Motion by Mr. Guest, seconded by Ms. Commissioner Michaud. Any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor of the motion to dismiss, say aye.
Aye.
And it's unanimous, and this motion is dismissed. As to Mr. Marty T. and Alicia Kochurik, 20 Property Tax Commission 0502. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. It's always good to see you. If you see anybody I know, tell them hello.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be sure to do that. Very nice seeing you, commission members, Mr. Pelfrey, Ms. Garrett, albeit virtually. It's always nice to see you. Everybody stay safe and well.
Okay. Well, maybe July we'll get back to being able to have live in-person hearings.
Let's hope so.
I know we all would like for that. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the matter of HMM Hospitality LLC 19 Property Tax Commission 0450. Mr. Moorfield for the county, Mr. McLean for the taxpayer. So at this time, we will hear from Mr. McLean, do you want to give us a brief opening, and then we can have a brief opening also from Mr. Moorfield?
That'd be fine, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
I notice we're not popping up on the on the screen. Good morning, and I go by Trey McLean of Player McLean, and I represent the taxpayer in this matter. And we are here pursuant to the taxpayer's appeal of the 2019 valuation for their property. I'll refer to it as the Spring Hill Suites. It's a hotel here in Fayetteville. And just to kind of get this out of the way, because it'll become obviously more important in the evidence, that for purposes of this appeal and the valuation, the personal property has been valued, and I think everybody agrees that $2,071,542. That's not an issue, but obviously it'll come into play in the calculation. In any event, Cumberland County initially valued the real estate portion of the Spring Hill Suites, and I might just call it the property if that's okay, at $6,238,258. However, based upon the submittals of the county, that has been reduced to $5,250,800. While the taxpayer certainly appreciates the candor and willingness of the county to revisit its analysis, the taxpayer respectfully submits to the commission that even this revised valuation, while certainly setting an upper limit to the value of the subject property, does not represent the statutory true value.
Mr. McLean, can you give us that figure again, since that's changed from what we had?
Yeah, the initial assessment was $6,238,258. The county's revised, what's in their submittals today, is $5,250,800 even.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
$5,250,800.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, obviously, if I'm wrong, I'll let Mr. Moorfield correct me, but that's my understanding from their submittals today. To that end, we respectfully submit that the valuation is faulty and that it relies upon, and this obviously is a statutory scheme, an arbitrary or illegal, that is, doesn't render a true value method, and the resulting discrepancy is very significant. In fact, we believe that the adjustment of approximately $1 million from the assessed value to the value the county is admitting before you today is prima facie evidence that the initial assessed value, while it might have had a rebuttable presumption of correctness, the county has rebutted its own presumption of the initial value, and that clearly it didn't provide a true value, and I would say $1 million is a significant difference. And this is somewhat similar to the case, an 02 case, In-Ray Lane Company, Hickory Chair, where the court noted that the large discrepancy between the initial assessment and the figure brought by the county at the hearing was in and of itself evidence that substantial and material and competent evidence, not the only evidence, but certainly some evidence that those prongs, the two prongs, had been met, and then the burden was shifted to the county to prove that its method provided the true value. To that end, the taxpayer will call Nanish Mehta, who's already been sworn, to provide a lay opinion of true value and to also give context to the arbitrariness, the alleged arbitrariness of the county's income approach. And lastly, before we begin, it's our understanding that the county has lodged an objection as to certain evidence, and kind of just go ahead and grabbing it by the horns. We would request that the commission reserve ruling on any said objection until it has the whole record before it. Suffice it to say, we agree, and this we'll get into with Mr. Mehta, that the taxpayer cannot solely utilize post-valuation economic data specific to the subject property. However, and this is also kind of tackled in Ray Lane, we contend that it is permissible for it to be one of the data points, and as part of a kind of a holistic view for the Mr. Mehta's lay opinion of value of the market and certain comparables. And so that's a very long-winded way to say we're here today to show that we believe the county vastly overshot the mark on true value, and we're appealing to the commission to correct that regrettable error. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Chairman Wheeler.
Mr. McLean, if I missed it, I apologize. Did you give us what the taxpayer is contending the value to be?
Not yet. I was going to put that in evidence, but the taxpayer's value, I can give that to you, and I should have told you that, is, here, I can get it. It was in the submittals. The taxpayer contends, and I apologize, that funny how you do that. You don't have it right in front of you. I've looked at it 5 million times. One second. Just look at that figure on it.
Well, why don't we do this? While you're looking for that, let's let Mr. Moore fill, and then we'll come back.
I have it right here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's this is with the, obviously he did his analysis for the whole value and then backed out the personal property portion. The real property portion is $3,945,707 and some
Thank
like
you.
that. Sorry
Okay,
about that.
thanks. Sorry. Thanks. Okay, Mr. Moorfield.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, staff members. The value that the county has presented finally from this is the $5,250,800 for the real property for this hotel. And as Mr. McLean said, it's our understanding that the personal property is not at dispute. That was what was listed by the taxpayer. As a preliminary matter, I'm glad that Mr. McLean brought this up. The only documentary evidence that the taxpayer has submitted has been revenue and expense data for years, the last half of 18, all of 19, and the first half of 20. The valuation was based on, is for the 2017 schedule of values for the last reappraisal that the county did, consistently with GS 105-285, which requires the value of real property shall be determined as of January 1st for the years prescribed by 286 and 287, which are reference the reappraisal cycle. And I think it's difficult for folks to get their head around valuing something that was just being constructed in 2017 and only opened for business in 2018. That's the reason for the documents that the taxpayer has provided. But as Mr. McLean pointed out in our proposed order, the county did raise an objection to all that revenue and expense data from the years, but all of it, because there's none from the years prior to January 1st, 2017. And if the commission wants to handle it that way, it'll be fine. It just takes note of the record that of the county's objection to any of the use of any of that evidence. And I think that's what Mr. McLean is asking for also. And with that said, the county's evidence is just going to be the appraisal using the methodology that was used by and the scheduled values adopted for the county for 2017.
Okay, let me ask this question just for clarification. So this property was under construction in 2017, the year of the valuation?
That's correct.
Okay. And I did review the pretrial order. It looks like everybody's agreed on everything and all the exhibits with the exceptions that y'all pointed out. So we'll deem everything admitted except for that. We'll look at that when it comes up and may have to wait till we hear it until we give a ruling as to whether or not it'll be admitted or not. Okay, this time then, Mr. McLean, we'll hear from you as to your evidence.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, thank you. We call Nanish Mehta. as the taxpayer's representative. Mr. Maida, please, again, I know you've already identified yourself, but just because it's my habit, please identify yourself for the record.
Sure. Nana
Mr.
Schmate.
McLean, we're not getting your video. Are you totally audio now?
I don't know why that's
Click on start video on the bottom.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I don't know why it bumped me off. Can you see us now? I believe so.
Not yet. No, there you are. Okay,
There
we
we
got
are.
you now.
Mr. Maida, please identify yourself to the commission again.
Sure. My name is Nana Schmate.
And how are you associated with the, and if I just say the taxpayer, everybody understands who I'm talking about, HHM. How are you associated and identified with the taxpayer?
I am a partner in HMM Hospitality.
And what do you do for the taxpayer?
We have developed the hotel from inception to now operations of the hotel.
What do you personally do in terms of operation of the hotel?
I manage the accounting, manage the purchasing, and general overseeing of the property with my brother.
All right. Are you familiar with, I'll call it the Spring Hill Suites property?
Yes.
How are you familiar with it?
Just as I mentioned, we've run everything from the design of the property all the way to construction and now operations of the facility.
Did you participate? You already answered this question. I'm sorry. Are there other properties in this market that you have some ownership stake in?
Yes, we have the Hilton Garden Inn, Embassy Suites, and Holiday Inn Express, all in the Fayetteville market.
And how are you familiar with each of those properties?
Just like Spring Hill Suites, we've actually developed each of these properties from the ground up, from design to construction, and now to operations.
Just briefly, I don't mean to go in great detail, but describe for the commission, what is the Spring Hill Suites?
Spring Hill Suites is a property consisting of 121 guest rooms, does offer a complimentary breakfast bar in the mornings with a evening bar lounge setting, nightly outdoor pool, has your typical amenities of a upscale hotel or select service hotel, such as business center, guest laundry, outdoor patio space, and a flex area in the lobby with meeting space.
How many floors?
5 floors.
Briefly describe each of the other hotels, just so they have the context.
Certainly. So Hilton Garden Inn is 104 guest rooms, 4 stories, offers similar amenities as Spring Hill Suites, other than the Hilton Garden Inn has a cook-to-order breakfast, which is not included in the guest room rental rates. It has an indoor pool. Those are really the 2 big vast differences. Everything else is pretty similar. Embassy Suites is 165 guest rooms with 6 stories, and that actually has 25,000 square feet of meeting and flexible space. So it is considered a hotel and conference center because of the amount of meeting space that the property has.
Okay, go on. The
Holiday Inn Express is 89 rooms, hotel and suites, 2 buildings. One building consists of 4 stories. The other consists of 3 stories.
How long have you been involved in the management operation of these hotels?
Over 25 years.
How many hotels have you been involved in the construction of?
These 4 plus another, so a total of 5.
Are you generally familiar with the hospitality market in Fayetteville and surrounding vicinity?
Yes.
How so?
We are active in it on a daily basis. We manage the 4 assets in Fayetteville, and we're very involved within the hospitality community to know what's going on and kind of trying to stay ahead of the curve.
Do you participate in any trade organizations in the community?
Yes, we do.
What would those be?
Have been on various commissions, the travel tourism, active with the CVB here in town.
Did you cause a notice of appeal to be filed in this matter?
Yes, we did.
Mm-hmm. What was the county's Cumberland County's initial assessment for the Spring Hill Suites property, the real property portion?
$6,238,258.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you are in agreement with the county as to the personal property valuation?
That is correct.
And what is that valuation?
That amount is a little north of 2 million, I believe.
Can you give an exact figure if you can?
2 million, I believe it's,
Is it the figure that I mentioned in my opening?
yes.
Okay. All right. In regards to the initial assessment by the county, did you consider that to be substantially in excess of the true value for the subject property?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Looking at our other hotels and just the values that we feel are accurate compared to the valuation methodology that the county presented to us, the ADR seemed to be a bit higher than what they use for others, as well as the expense ratio was lower than what they use for the others, which I feel derived at a higher valuation from the county standpoint.
I'm sorry, can you explain that in a little more detail?
Okay, so at our Hilton Garden Inn in the income approach valuation that the county provided to us, they used a $90 ADR versus at Spring Hill Suites, they've used a $99 ADR. And if you look at industry averages in a perspective that Spring Hill and Hilton both put together, on a nationwide average, a Spring Hill Suites is typically 3 to 4% lower than Hilton Garden Inn in ADR, or average daily rate. So when we looked at that, with Hilton Garden Inn being at $90, but Spring Hill Suites being at $99, instead of being 3% lower, they were 10% higher. So the average daily rate in their computation, in our opinion, was incorrect. And then looking at the expense ratio, our actual expenses are far greater than even what they are showing at Hilton Garden Inn at 73.65%. At Hilton Garden Inn, and at Spring Hill Suites, they were showing an expense ratio of 67%. So once again, those two computations being in the opposite direction is what, in our opinion, yields to a higher value in their calculation versus ours. If we take the exact ADR and expense ratios that they've used in their computations for Hilton Garden Inn.
You want to say there, you need one more?
The county.
Okay.
If the county uses the $90 ADR and the 73.65% expense ratio, then the number that the county would arrive at for Spring Hill Suites would be in line with what we're asking or estimating for the value to be for Spring Hill Suites. All right.
Based upon your familiarity with the subject property and your experience in the hospitality market in Fayetteville, do you have an opinion satisfactory to yourself as to the true value of the subject property as of January 1, 2017?
So as of 2000...
Do you have, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. What is that value?
The value should be at $3,935,364.
Mr. Chair, this is where we're going to get into some of the numbers that have been objected to. I don't know how you want to handle that, if you want to just present and then reserve dealing with that right after we present, or how you want to handle.
Yes, we'll reserve judgment on it. Have him give us those figures. He just contended they were a little bit different than what I think you had initially said.
What is your opinion of value, Mr. Mehta? True value.
The true value should be at $3,935,364.
And I believe the chair is saying that.
And we provided this number earlier, which is $10,000.
It was about 10,000 difference, I think.
I'm sorry. Which is it, Mr. Mehta? Which is the correct figure?
The latest number, which is $3,935,364.
All right. I apologize, Mr. Chair, about that. I don't know where we got the other figure from. All right,
That's all right.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Maida. Go ahead and I need you to explain in detail using those exhibits we provided how you arrived at that figure.
Okay. So once again, if you take the ADR,
And I need you to reference the exhibits you provided.
okay. So the first exhibit is a profit and loss statement for the years 2018 from June to December, the complete year 2019, and the revenue figures for 2020 from January to October.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Maida is referring to Exhibit A2 of our packet. Make sure that's correct.
Yes, that is it.
All
I
right,
apologize.
Exhibit A2.
Yes, sir. So looking at the year 2018, which was the startup year, and it was only half of the year. 2019 was a complete year, and then 2020 with COVID pandemic, we kind of threw out the 2018 numbers, threw out the 2020 numbers because both would have been skewed, one due to starting up and the other due to COVID, and simply looked at the 2019 figures. And if you go to page 2 of the profit and loss statement, the total profits, or I'm sorry, the net operating income was $427,246. And if you go to the next page, which is the cap rate matrix, the hotel is considered in the upper select service category, and using a median cap rate in that market segment of 7.1 with a NOI of $427,246, it yields to a total valuation of $6,017,549. Out of that valuation, if we remove the business personal property, which is $2,071,842, yields to the real property value of the $3,945,707.
So just so that I understand, Mr. Maida, the correct value that you contend to be the true value is that $3,945,707 figure. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
All right. I apologize to the chair for the confusion there.
All right,
Keep going.
let's clear that up. The earlier figure that he gave us was $3,935,364. So you're saying that was incorrect, and it's back to the figure that you had given us, $3,945,707.
That is correct.
To clarify for the chair and everyone that I hate to testify, but I think the original figure was based on the appeal, and I think he's modified it since then, if that is correct.
That is correct.
Again, I apologize.
So which is correct?
The $3,945,707.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
So if we
Mr.
go-
McLean.
I think he's going to the next page of the exhibit.
So if you go to the
Okay.
next page of the exhibit, we have the area property values comparison. And looking at the Hilton Garden Inn, the value of the real estate is $4,160,000. Personal property is at $605,827 for a total value of $4,765,827. And if we divide that total value by the number of rooms on property, that would derive at $45,825.26.
Mr. Maida, I think you need to explain to the chair what this table is of. What is it?
So these are hotels in the market these are hotels that we own in the market, and just went through and did an analysis of a valuation per key or per room to get a true average of where the Spring Hill Suites sits versus where the other hotels are, as far as the valuation standpoint for a guest room.
And where did you get that information?
This comes directly from the county's website and our tax bills that were provided each year.
What is the concept of a price per key or price per room?
We do that because obviously every hotel has a different number of guest rooms.
Mr. Mehta, who's we? You need to identify who you're talking about.
So I myself use that approach in reviewing a valuation and derive it down to a cost or value per room versus just taking a holistic approach. So that way it is simple and easier to compare Hotel A to Hotel B because there are no two hotels that have the same room count.
So there's a method for comparing valuations in the market?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
So in comparison to the Hilton Garden Inn at our Spring Hill Suites, we have a valuation of $3,921,993 plus some additional personal property, which is close to $2,080,000, deriving at a total valuation of $6,007,206.
Okay.
Mr. McLean, let me stop him there. I have one sheet, the area hotel property value comparison, and apparently he has some other figures. Are we missing something, or is he reading from something else?
Should it be the same one? This was the initial packet, this was the updated packet we sent.
We are, Mr. Mehta is looking at the one attached to Exhibit A2. Is that what you got? It should say 2019, Mr. Mehta.
Correct.
Well, let me just go back and see if I can find it. I was looking at the area hotel property value comparison sheet, which has the 4 hotels, but it's one sheet. So is that an attachment, or are we back to another previous sheet on A2?
Yes, sir. It's an attachment to A2.
It
All
is
right,
the
so-
area hotel property value comparison sheet.
Just for purposes of clarification, A1 and A2 are substantially similar. A2 has just got revised figures. I think that's why he went to A2 first. But there are, so I don't want to confuse, obviously I already have confused everybody, but he was reading off the area hotel property value comparison that he prepared in Exhibit A2.
All right, but it sounded like he had more figures than just the one page that I'm looking at. I see that on that page, it has the 4 hotels, and it has the number of rooms, and it has a value per room, and it has total value.
Yes, sir.
Is that all he's talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
The previous information that he provided was the prior 2 pages of 3 pages of Exhibit A2.
But that only
was the-
deals with the Spring Hill, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right, so we're back there, okay.
Yes, sir.
He lost me there for a minute.
Sorry about that. No. All right, let's go back, Mr. Mehta. Obviously, we
Wait
have.
a minute. Excuse me.
Mr. Commissioner, Vice Chairman Wheeler?
I have 2 of these pages. One has area hotel property value comparison. The other one is not titled at all or marked as an exhibit.
That's 2018, this is 2019. This was the initial appeal
Right.
we sent, and then this
Right.
is the update.
There was an Exhibit A1, which has, and it's several pages. And the next to last page in Exhibit A1 is the same kind of table, but it's not titled. And it has 2018 year built, but it's the same numbers.
All right, and the other one has 2019 year built.
Yes, sir.
My concern is if you look at every one of these, starting with HGI at the top, those numbers pretty well reconcile. Then you get down to Spring Hill Suites at the bottom. You're saying the real estate value is $3,244,383.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the bottom sheet, it's $3,921,993.
Mm-hmm. I see
And
your point.
I'm trying to go over to something else to find those numbers, and I can't.
So the values that you see on these sheets,
Well, no, you got to be specific about what sheet you're talking about.
okay, so the value that you see on the one that is titled Area Hotel Property Value Comparison, those values have come from the county tax bill that we received. The values that you see on the sheet that is untitled, that has 2018 year built, also come straight from the county's invoice to us each year. So these are not values that we have computed or derived in any which way. We're simply taking that from our property tax bill and putting it into this format for comparison so we can derive a value per guest room to see what the valuation that the county is proposing per guest room is versus where we think it should be.
Let me ask this, is the difference in the 2 years a difference in the personal property that would have been valued each year as opposed to the real property?
Yes and no. I mean, majority of it is dealing with personal property, but if you look at the valuation, well, sorry, yes, you are correct. It is $2,762,000 and some change in 2018.
You misread that.
$2,762,000 on this one.
Oh,
So
you're on the wrong one.
on the 2018, we're at $2,762,000, and in 2019 we're at $2,080,000. So there's a difference of roughly almost $700,000, which is mainly dealing with personal property.
Okay, so the real property is basically the same, I hope. Mr. Guest, Commissioner Guest.
Okay, going back to the two of these. So we have the non-titled sheet, which is the 2018 year built. Each of the properties, HGI, Embassy Suites, Holiday Inn Express, they all start, and if you compare the 2018 to the 2019, the value that is placed next to the property address are all identical for each year in comparison. However, when we get to Spring Hill Suites, in 2018, you have a property value of $3,244,383. On the 2019 one, you have a property value of $3,921,993. You have a higher value. What changed in the building between 2018 and 2019 that increased the value in 2019?
Nothing changed, sir. The only thing, what we're doing is the county has valued the total building with the real estate and personal property at $6,007,000. So being that the personal property reduced from 2018 to 2019, that difference was then brought over to real property.
The personal property in 2018 on your sheet shows $2,762,823. In 2019, and your sheet titled Area Hotel Property Value Comparison, the personal property is valued at $2,071,842. That does show a decrease there. You have a $700,000 roughly decrease. However, the lines right above that, where you have the property address, 4750 Lake Valley Drive, In 2018, you identify the property as being valued at $3,244,383. In 2019, you identify the property at 4750 Lake Valley Drive is valued at $3,921,993. You also then have, in addition to that, something titled Williams Scottman and HP Financial Services, which have small values. I'm asking why the building value changed. This does not appear to have anything to do with the personal property value.
Correct. And just to clarify, if you look at the total value in 2018 on the untitled sheet, it is $6,007,206, which
Correct.
also matches in 2019 on the sheet title Area Hotel Property Value Comparison. All we're simply showing is the total has not changed, being that the personal property did decrease roughly $700,000. We pushed that number on the real property so that the overall total value stayed the same, which is what the county has stated as the real value is $6,007,206.
And did you pull these numbers off a property tax bill that the county mailed to you, or did you just backed into this number for 2019?
No, sir. We pulled these numbers straight from the invoices that we received from the county.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have anything more to say
Go
about
ahead,
that?
Mr. Meter.
Not on that, just need to go back on this sheet.
I'm sorry.
Not on the area hotel properties, but just would like to go back and touch base once again on the
We'll get there in a second.
4 hotel comparison.
Yeah, give me a second. All right. Have you, Mr. Maida, do you have anything else to say about the documents you provided in support of your evaluation?
No, sir.
All right. Have you reviewed the county's income approach analysis submitted in this matter?
Yes, sir, we have.
Do you have, and I'm referencing Exhibit H1.
Is this
Title.
in the county's exhibits?
Yes, sir.
All right. Give us a chance to find those.
Absolutely. Just let me know when you're ready.
Well, it appears I didn't pull those up, so we're going to need a minute to find those. What happened, this was on for an earlier hearing. We kept the file, and I guess I separated the county's exhibits. So give me a second, and let me
Sure, no problem.
find those.
This is the one.
Okay, I have them. Everybody else have the county's exhibits? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. McLean.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Maida, I was referring you to the county's Exhibit H, and then H has sub-exhibits, as I call it H1. Do you have that in front of you?
Yes.
I represent to you, because everybody has it, as a table. It's entitled Income Approach to Value Model 6 Final Valuations. And it says prepared by Rhonda Y. Cherry. Are you familiar with all four of those properties?
Yes, sir, I am.
Obviously, you are very familiar with the Spring Hill Suites and the Hilton Garden Inn, is that correct?
That is correct.
How are you familiar with both the Courtyard at Marriott Cross Creek as well as the Courtyard by Marriott Spring Lake?
Both are in the same Fayetteville area market. The Courtyard by Marriott Cross Creek is less than a mile from the Spring Hill Suites, and less than a quarter mile from our Hilton Garden Inn. And the Courtyard in Spring Lake is roughly 5.5 miles away from the Spring Hill Suites.
Understood. Have you ever been, other than your properties, have you ever been to any of the other properties?
I have.
How often have you been to those other properties?
Several times. We've had meetings.
Who's we?
Myself, my brother, other management team members have been to both hotels for site tours as well as hospitality meetings that we have through the Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Are you familiar with the Courtyard at Marriott brand?
Yes.
What is that brand?
The Courtyard brand is geared more towards the corporate traveler. It does have a breakfast, but it is a paid breakfast. It does offer a lounge in most hotels as far as evening service from 5 to 9 or 5 to 10. And it is more of a corporate style or corporate laid out hotel.
All right. And just very, very briefly, compare that with the Spring Hill Suites and the Hilton Garden Inn.
Okay, so in comparison to the Spring Hill Suites does offer a complimentary breakfast bar, which that is included in your guest room rate, so it is not an additional charge. And they do offer an evening bar service with just small bar food versus the Courtyard offers dinner. Hilton Garden Inn has a indoor pool versus at Spring Hill Suites, it is an outdoor pool. The restaurant is open in the morning for a cooked-to-order breakfast at Hilton Garden Inn versus a complimentary breakfast at Spring Hill Suites. Hilton Garden Inn does offer room service versus at Spring Hill Suites, there are no room service offerings.
All right. You obviously are familiar, well, ask you this question, excuse me, strike that. Are you familiar with the operating expenses for the Spring Hill Suites and the Hilton Garden Inn?
I am.
Are you familiar with them for the time frame 2016, 2017 time frame?
I am.
Please compare them in general.
At the end of the day, the biggest denominator would be because the breakfast at Hilton Garden Inn is charged, there's an additional revenue stream. At the evening room service, it's also a full dinner option and it's another outlet, so there's an additional revenue stream there. At Spring Hill Suites, the breakfast is included in the room rate, so there's not an additional revenue stream to be had for that outlet, as well as there is no room service in the evening. So we are solely relying on the guest room rental, which is also diluted due to breakfast being included in their guest room rate with Spring Hill Suites in comparison to Hilton Garden Inn. So in that perspective, Hilton Garden Inn would have higher revenues and Spring Hill Suites would have a little bit higher expense ratio because the breakfast is an inclusive item.
You obviously are familiar with the general ADR for both those locations as well?
Yes.
Generally, which has the higher, and I strike that, of the Hilton Garden Inn and the Spring Hill Suites, which normally has the higher ADR?
The Hilton Garden Inn normally has a higher ADR, and looking at the brand perspective for all hotels within Spring Hill Suites and Hilton Garden Inn, as a brand, they're even showing a 3% higher ADR at Hilton Garden Inn versus Spring Hill Suites.
Based upon your extensive experience in the hospitality industry and your personal knowledge of these locations, do you believe it reasonable for the average daily rate, the ADR of the Spring Hill Suites, to be higher than that of the Hilton Garden Inn in this table?
Sorry, could you say that one?
Sure, I'm sorry, it was a long question. Let me break it up. Look at the table that's H1.
Okay.
Do you see the column that says ADR, total ADR?
Yes, sir.
And do you see a column that says adjusted ADR?
Yes, sir.
Go to the column that says adjusted ADR. What is it listed for Spring Hill Suites?
$99.
And what is it listed for Hilton Garden Inn?
$90.
Based upon your knowledge and experience of the market and these hotels, do you believe that to be reasonable?
No.
Why?
As I mentioned earlier, it should be lower, or at minimum, at least the same as Hilton Garden Inn, but there's no comparison where it should be higher.
Just so that you understand how this table works, is that correct?
Yes,
It flows from left to right in terms of the calculation?
correct.
All right. Go to the column that says expense ratio.
Okay.
What is your understanding of that column?
So
What does it represent?
It is the expense ratio that the county is assuming that each of the hotels would have. Spring Hill Suites is shown at 67% expense ratio versus the other two courtyards are at 70%.
Where do you see 67?
Am I using the wrong sheet?
Looking at Exhibit H1, what is the expense ratio listed for Spring Hill Suites?
It is 70% for Spring Hill Suites and the two courtyards, and Hilton Garden Inn is at 73.65%.
All right. Again, based upon your extensive experience in the market and your knowledge of these hotels, do you believe that to be reasonable?
No, sir. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, the expense ratio at Spring Hill Suites would be higher than at Hilton Garden Inn due to the complimentary breakfast versus paid breakfast, as well as a indoor pool versus outdoor pool.
At what location?
At Spring Hill Suites.
All right. Okay. Have you applied the adjusted daily rate for Hilton Garden Inn and the expense ratio for Hilton Garden Inn listed in this table to your location at Spring Hill in terms of the math?
Yes.
Can you please go through that with the commission?
Oh, give me 1 second.
Do you need a calculator?
I think I have it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so
I need you to do the math.
okay.
All right. If you need paper, that's fine. I have it. If the commission will bear with me, I want them to do the math.
All right, so if we take the 121 guest rooms times the $90 ADR times 365 days, and then multiply that by the 70% expense ratio, that would give us 121 times 90 times 365 times 0.7. And then take out of that number, that would derive at $5,847,045. And if we take out the personal property number from that, which is $2,071,542, that would derive at a total real value of $3,775,000 and $503.
Read that again for the commission, please.
$3,775,503.
And for purposes of clarification, how do you arrive at that figure?
We are simply taking the $90 ADR times the 121 guest rooms times 365 days, and then multiplying it by the 70% expense ratio.
70% or the expense ratio adjusted for Hilton Garden Inn?
I'm sorry, the adjusted for Hilton Garden Inn, which is the 73.65. And that yields to a total value, including personal property, at $5,847,045.88.
And subtracting the personal property, what does that figure come to?
$3,775,503. And if we divide that by 121 guest rooms, that would yield around $31,202.
How does that figure compare with the prior figure that you testified to, your $3,900,000 and change figure?
We are very close.
Based upon your extensive experience in the hospitality industry and your knowledge of the Fayetteville market, do you have an opinion as to whether the county's analysis, as is listed in Exhibit H1, generates a true value for the Spring Hill Suites?
I think that their adjustment factors that they used, as well as the expense ratios that they use, are inaccurate, thus yielding a inflated overall value.
So that would be a no?
Correct.
All right. Do you believe that the income approach is the best way to value these properties?
Yes.
Why?
At the end of the day, I mean, you have to use the income as far as an ongoing basis, because if it were to be marketed, that is how a potential buyer would look at it.
And the property is revenue producing, is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I know there's an objection on the table. We would move to introduce our exhibits based upon the fact that we're not looking solely at the revenue stream from the hotel. We're also looking at how it compares with the price per key of other hotels. And like I said, In Ray Lane says you can use valuations that are post the octennial valuation for purposes of finding true value.
All right, let me hear from Mr. Moorfield on that, and then I'll rule.
Mr. Chairman, the county's objection to the introduction of any of this evidence is we still have to raise that objection. There's been absolutely no evidence equate any of this to the value of this property would have had on January 1st, 2017, which what the statute requires for purposes of equity and uniformity.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and admit it, and we'll note your objection, especially since 2017 it was partially complete, and then the revenue stream was just for basically a half year on 2018, and 2020 was not a normal year as well. So I'll admit that and note your objection. All right, question, let's see, are you through, Mr. McLean? And I see Vice Chairman Wheeler has a question.
Mr. Mate, the it appears on your chart where you have $3,945,000 as your value. These figures were calculated based upon revenue during 2020 when there was a pandemic, correct?
No, sir, we did not take 2018 nor 20 into the equation, and we simply used 2019, which was
Right.
the first full year the hotel was open without any pandemics or startups.
The reason I asked the question is at the bottom of that page, over on the bottom left, formula used in computation of value, average net operating income from June 18 to October 2020, which would include the time during the pandemic, correct?
It does, but if you look at the box below it, it says using 2019 NOI best case scenario. And that's what we use as the 2019 numbers, and we took out 18 and 20. We just showed that if we were to have used the 2018, 19, and 20, the NOI would be a loss of $49,148.
All right, I have one more question. On
Yes, sir.
when you were talking about the county's Exhibit H,
Yes, sir.
is the biggest difference in the calculation between you and the county is the cap rate?
No, sir. We're in disagreement on the adjusted ADR, where they're actually showing a $90 ADR at Hilton Garden Inn, but a $99 ADR at Spring Hill Suites, as well as the expense ratio of 73.65% at Hilton Garden Inn versus 70% expense ratio at Spring Hill Suites.
I just noticed that you used a 7.1 cap rate. The county used 12.539.
Yes, sir. So we're using a more aggressive cap rate with actual expenses and deriving at a number similar to what the county would have derived at had they used the $90 ADR as well as the 73.65% expense ratio.
All right, so thank you.
So,
Mr. Guest? Mr. Guest?
Thank you. Couple of questions. So the information the county has that they use to arrive at the ADR and at the expense ratios, is this based off of your actual data? Did they ask you, and did you provide your actual revenue and your actual expenses to the county?
we did provide them with a P&L with revenues and expenses at the time of filing the appeal, as well as we provided an updated P&L in 2020 to encompass roughly 2.5 years worth of actual numbers.
Okay, and these ADRs that you're mentioning here, the $90, is that an accurate daily rate for your facility on average, or is this a number that would be different than yours?
So in actuality, our ADR is a little bit higher, but our expenses are also higher. So
what would your ADR average be, and what would your expenses average be?
If you go back to, what is this exhibit?
H2. I'm sorry, A2, excuse me, A2.
If we go to A2, we can pull from there our,
Tell them what page of A2.
this will be page 1, 2, and 3. Page 3 of A2, our expense ratio is at 89.9.
You want to identify the heading on that page so we'll make sure we have the correct one.
Yes, sir. It is Spring Hill Suites Upper Select Service as the header, and it shows 2018, 2019, and 2020 with an average column next to it.
Okay, now we got it. Thank you.
Okay. So on there, our expenses are at 89.9%. And I do not have the ADR on this sheet, but I believe our ADR is around $96 or $97. So.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Just a few other questions for you. The valuation here is as of January 1st, 2017. That's where it's in dispute, I believe. And on January 1st, 2017, your property was under construction. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you know what the total cost of construction was excluding personal property? I'm talking just the building.
I do not right offhand, sir.
Do you know what percentage of completion your building was at effective January 1st, 2017 in construction?
In 2017, January, I would estimate we would be somewhere around 35–40% complete.
Okay, but you don't have a rough estimate of what it cost you to build the building?
Not right offhand, because I didn't have the numbers here with me, and it's been a couple of years, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. McLean.
Sorry, I'm just thinking real quick, Mr. Chair. No further questions for Mr. Maida at this time.
All right. I don't see hands raised, so we'll go on to cross by Mr. Moorfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Maida, let me address you first to plaintiff's exhibit H1. That's the chart that says income approach to value model 6 final valuations. Do you have that?
You said H1 or A1?
Was it H1 or A1?
H1.
H1.
The county's exhibit, not yours.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, I've got it right here.
Commissioner Michaud, hold on. Commissioner Michaud.
Mr. Chairman, the county exhibits, I am still trying to locate them in my file. I just alerted Alexandra and Steve that I don't have them in my file.
Okay, it's a big, thick book, if that helps you, Ms. Commissioner
That might
Michaud.
be- Second.
That's why I didn't pick it up with the file. It was labeled where the appellant's exhibits were.
Yeah. File. Is it county exhibits? Let's see.
Yeah, it's in
yeah.
a big white binder. It looks like this. I think you got it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. No, I did not pick it up with the file either.
All right, we've got it. And so now we're going back to H1 again. Is that correct, Mr. Moorfield?
So, Mr. Chairman, what I'm referring to is H1 is if you go to subsection H and pick up the tab that has one would be the exhibit behind that. The title of it is 2017 Revaluation, Income Approach to Value Model 6 Final Valuations.
And that is the same exhibit for clarification purposes for Commissioner Michaud that the taxpayer was referring to earlier. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. It's one of them. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. I have it.
Mr. Maida, you now see that exhibit,
Yes, sir.
right? And that's the one that has Spring Hill Suites in the top row, highlighted in yellow. And then the 2 courtyard and Marriott's and the Hilton Garden Inn, correct?
Yes.
Right. And you referenced the ADR being 99 for Spring Hill Suites and 90 for Hilton Garden Inn. Between the column, it'd be the third column and the 5th column, both of them are colored in blue. The heading is, you see total ADR, correct?
Yes.
That stands for average daily rate, correct?
Yes.
Right, and then in sort of a pink color in my book, it says other fact. You know what that is? The 4th Spring Hill, the 2 courtyards in that column that says other fact, which I'll just say it's for other factors. is 1.10, 1.10, and 1.10. And for Hilton Garden Inn, it's just a 1.00. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the meaning of that other factor column is?
I do not.
You see that that's what is creating the adjusted daily rate of the top three at 99, and then the Hilton Garden Inn is at 90.
Yes, I do see that.
And then you had testified that you computed your number by taking the number of rooms and multiplying it by the ADR, come up with your gross revenue. But you see the next column that's in blue heading. It says occupancy rate. It says
Yes, sir.
all right, and that's 70% for all of those. You see that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And in doing this calculation, you would have actually reduced the income by that 70%, correct?
Yes,
Is the occupancy rate, you own the Hilton Garden Inn also, correct?
yes,
Is the 70% occupancy rate for as of in January 2017, would that have been a accurate statement of the occupancy rate for that hotel then, Hilton Garden Inn?
I don't know the exact as of January of 2017, but that hotel typically averages somewhere in the 66 to 71% range.
Now you testified about the difference in the expense ratio for Spring Hill Suites being 70% and for the Hilton Garden Inn being at 73.65%. Point that out, did you not?
I did, yes, sir.
Let me make sure I understand. You do not, your firm does not own the Courtyards at Marriott, do they?
We do
You own-
not.
So on this chart, the only two that your company owns are the Spring Hill Suites and Hilton Garden Inn, correct?
That is correct.
Now, did you not also appeal the Hilton Garden Inn for the 2017 revaluation?
I did, yes, sir.
And do you recall discussing with county appraisal staff the expense ratio and providing documentation of that?
Yes, sir, I do.
And was the 73.65% not a negotiated figure that you worked out with the county with respect to that hotel at that time?
No, sir, that expense ratio is not negotiated. The overall valuation is what was negotiated with Mr. Utley, and the amount that we were seeking versus the amount that Mr. Utley was willing to approve without it having to go through the appeals process was a minor amount, and we felt it was just better to go ahead and accept the modified valuation that they presented, but never were we given the information on how the county derived to that valuation.
So you did not provide county staff any information on your expenses or your revenue?
Amount, that back calculation as to how they derived.
Services.
Yes, sir.
Do you believe, do you use Smith Travel Research Service with the publications in terms of making your own decisions about your operations and investments?
Yes, sir.
You understand what the upscale designation, if you see looking at the very first column above the names of the hotels, at the very top wording there says upscale.
I do, and I mean, as you know, today in hospitality, everyone is going above and beyond their pre-dedicated box to gain customers, to find themselves unique. So there is no one size fits all. There is no formula that states that, okay, this hotel is a upscale, this hotel is select service. It really depends on location to location. It depends on the attributes that the facility A may have versus facility B with the same name.
Well, do you know that, do you know whether or not upscale is a term or a classification that Smith Travel Research uses to classify hotels?
Yes, sir.
Do you know if is the Spring Hill Suites in the Garden Inn, are they classified as upscale by Smith Travel Research?
Do you have that publication by chance that I can refer back to?
I was just asking you, you know, I mean, it is, we can get into it if necessary with the county presents evidence, but I was just asking, if you don't know, it's okay. But.
It changes from year to year, so I couldn't tell you that as of today if it's considered as upscale, upper select service, because they're always adding new terminology within their segments of hotels.
Mr. Mayor, let me ask you, just clarification. I never really fully understood that. In your exhibit A2, the document that has the heading Area Hotel Property Value Comparison.
Yes, sir.
And that's the document you prepared, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you say you got all your data from the tax bills that you actually received for tax year 2019?
I believe so, yes, that is correct.
And the reason I'm asking because I just can't put this together because as I'm looking at this, it shows Spring Hill Suites, your Spring Hill Suites, had a real value in 2019 of $3,921,993. In your own assessment of your opinion, the real value is actually higher than that. So I'm saying that.
I would have to go back and pull the tax bills again. Give me 1 second, see if I have those with me. Okay, so the total amount, if you look at A1, I believe, which has the same sheet as A2, but without the heading. One is a 2018 version and one is a 2019 version.
So what were you wanting to tell us about that?
So basically the FF&E amounts, or the personal property amounts of $2,071,842, the HP Financial Services and William Scotsman, those were straight from the personal property invoices that we received from the county, as well as on the 2018 figure, the $2,762,823 figure is straight from the invoice that we received from the county. The total amount that at $6,007,000 stayed as a static number, and that is why the real value is not off of an invoice. It just came to a sum of $6,007,206.
So think your testimony was that you got these numbers from your tax bills, but I think, is that what you're referring to as an invoice?
Correct. On the personal property, the real property, we did not receive a tax bill for $3,921,993 in 2019, but rather we received a tax bill of $6,238,258 in 2019.
So 2019, well, so you're saying that the 2019 figure of $3,921,000 was not taken from the tax bill?
That is correct.
So is that a number that you put in there?
All we're doing is taking the static number, which is everything totaling to the $6,700,206, subtracting the business personal property invoices from that to derive at the real value.
So the only value you got for a tax bill was the total number. Is that correct?
The only value that we received from the tax bill is the business personal property.
So you did not get a tax bill for, like, looking at 2019. You only got a tax bill for business personal property valued at $2,071,842. Is that
On
correct?
the invoice, no, we received that bill, but we also received a real value bill of $6,238,258 in 2019.
So what was that number again?
$6,238,258.
You got two tax bills, one for the personal property and one for the real property.
That is correct.
So the other numbers on there were not from I mean, it sounds like what you're saying is that the only actual tax bill number you got was the $2,071,842. The other numbers are numbers that you created yourself for some reason.
No, sir. So if you go back to our exhibit, this is 1A or 1.2?
That's A2.
A2. All right, so if you go to A2 on page 3, we're asking or suggesting a total value, including personal property, at $6,017,549. Should be the third line from the bottom.
I see that.
Okay, so all we're stating on the next sheet over on the area hotel property value comparison is if we're in the range of $6,017,000, we're taking that as a total value, deducting the business personal property value from it to state what the real value should be.
Betty, you understand that the county assessment, offer of assessment right now, before the shooting started, when we were actually putting this case together, is $5,250,000, $250,800. That, you understand that?
Yes, sir.
For the real property.
For real property.
All right. If you take the $5 million, says you're not contesting the personal property, which is over 2. So that's what we're coming to. The county's total value, okay, is over 70, and you're saying on this 2019 area hotel property value comparison we got put together here, these numbers are somehow related to your assessment that the value should be $6,017,549 for both the personal and the business. Right now,
That is correct.
I don't have any further questions at this time, Mr. Chairman.
All right, redirect.
Just very briefly, Mr. Chair. Mr. Maid, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, and I should have done this with you from the get-go. Let's go back to the beginning of Exhibit A. Where is the A2? Which is a multi-page exhibit.
Okay.
I don't want you to go through each thing, but describe what is on pages 1 and 2 of A2.
That is our profit and loss statement for years 2018, 19, and 20.
Going to page 3, and I know they're not numbered, but the next page, the third page of A2, what is page 3 of A2?
On page 3, we're using each year's.
It's entitled Spring Hill Suites Upper Select Service.
Correct. And we're using each year as far as the revenue, the expenses, the expense ratio to derive the net operating income. From there, we're taking.
And what was that net operating income for the period that you were addressing in here?
2019, it was $427,246.
What did you then do with that net operating income to find value, total value?
We took the median cap rate of 7.1% for the upper select service.
Now, as the commissioner pointed out, that is significantly different than the cap rate listed by the county, isn't it?
It is.
Explain that difference, please.
They are using, I believe.
Who's they?
The county is using a cap rate of 12.53%.
Correct. Explain qualitatively, please explain the difference.
Obviously, the lower the cap rate, the higher the value. So we are showing actual expenses which are higher than what the county is suggesting, using actual expenses with a lower cap rate and deriving at $6,017,549.
Okay. Now, what does that figure represent that you just said?
That would be the overall value of the asset, including real and personal property.
Then how do you address the personal property which is not being contested here?
We're deducting the $2,071,842 of business personal property from that number to derive at the real property value.
And that would be what?
$3,945,707.
All right, now let's go to the next page. This will be page 4 of A2. And it's kind of addresses some of, I think, Mr. Moorfield's questions. There are 4 hotels listed, is that correct?
Yes.
For the first hotel, it is listed as HGI. What is HGI?
Hilton Garden Inn.
All right, where there are 3 figures listed under 2, where do those figures come from?
From the actual tax bills that we received from the county.
So are you saying, well, strike that, in 2019, what are you saying is the real property portion of the tax bill for the Hilton Garden Inn?
$4,160,000.
What are you saying is the personal property portion?
$605,827.
And the sum of those would be?
$4,765,827.
What is the purpose of deriving a per room value?
So we can level the playing field and come up with a per key value for each hotel versus deriving just a total value.
for purposes of comparison, is that
For
correct?
comparison, yes.
All right. Next, let's go to the Embassy Suites. What is the real property portion that you have listed there?
$8,911,000
Where did that figure come from?
from the tax bill from county.
Okay, the next two are personal properties. What are those?
Personal property for the facility, one is under the operating company, one is under the development company.
Please explain that to the commission because it was confusing to me.
So that hotel has a development company, which is an LLC, and an operating company, which is a S Corp, and that is why the items are segregated between the operating and the development companies, thus two property tax bills, personal property tax bills.
And what is the figure for HP Financial Services?
That is for the computers that are being leased on site. HP Financial Services pays the business personal property tax for that equipment.
What does the total figure represent? What you tallied?
Correct. It's $10,556,879.
What does that represent?
That is the overall value of the facility with business and real property.
All those figures, except for the tally, where did they come from?
The tax bill.
Okay.
From the county.
Next line item, it says Holiday Inn Express. Is that a hotel that you own?
Yes.
All right. What is the real property portion of that value?
So on that one, we have two because the parcels are actually, or there are two buildings and each are on a different parcel. So we have two building real values, one at $1,512,000 and the other at $980,000, with a business personal property combined between the both for $447,561, for a total of $2,939,561.
Now, to avoid any confusion, where did all those figures come from?
From the tax bill from the county for each of those, other than the sum of those three line items.
Okay. Going to the last row, the Spring Hill Suites. Where did that real property portion of your, strike that question, where did you get the figure $3,921,993 from?
We took our total value that we're estimating at $6,017,000 from the prior page. It is $6,017,549.
Yes.
Which is roundabout where we are as far as the total, subtracted from the business personal invoices that we received, which are the second, third, and fourth line, which is William Scotsman, HP Financial Services, and personal property. If you subtract those three from...
Well, let me stop you there. Where did you get the William Scotsman figure from?
That is a bill that was received for equipment that we are leasing.
Where did you get the HP Financial Services bill from?
Same thing, equipment that we're leasing for the computers.
Where did you get the personal property bill from?
From the county.
All right. That tally figure, where did that tally figure come from, the total?
The $6,007,000 was the direct derivative of our first version that we provided with our appeal at $6,007,206.
So, for the record, there's an error on this page, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay. I need you to correct that for the commission right now so everybody's on the same page. Where did you intend to get that tally figure from?
It needed to come from the prior page, and it should be $6,017,549.35.
I need you to write that down on this sheet, please. Here. You got it? All right. So going to the next page, the last column, row, the last row.
Mm-hmm.
That tally figure should be what? The bottom figure total, what should it be?
$6,017,549.35.
All right. To get the real property portion, How did you intend to derive that?
Subtract the business personal property from the total to derive the real value.
Please do so. I got a calculator.
So the real value should be $3,932,336.
Can you correlate that with the value from the previous page?
So if we change the.
No, go to the previous page. What did you testify that the real property value portion was?
It's $3,932,336. On this page, we have the real value should be $3,945,707.35.
I need you to explain to the commission that discrepancy.
So once we correct the amount on here, it should come back to the correct amount of $3,932,336. Because we're not accounting for these two in this value. We're taking the.
You need to explain that to them.
So on the sheet that says upper select service, for the business personal property values, we're only taking the personal property values. We're not accounting for the HP Financial Services and William Scotsman. So if we account for those, then this value where it says $3,945,000 would go down to $3,932,336, which then both sheets will match.
All right. So please explain, let's strike that. Please give the commission your final lay opinion of real property value for the Spring Hill Suites as of the time in question.
It should be $3,932,336.
And just a couple more follow-up, and then I'll be done, Mr. Commissioner, I promise.
Okay.
Going back to the county's Exhibit H1, we already know the operation date for the Spring Hill. What did you testify the age of the Hilton Garden Inn was?
The property opened in November of 2005.
Are you familiar when the two courtyards generally open? You have to give me an exact date.
I believe the Courtyard Spring Lake opened in 2016, and Courtyard Cross Creek opened in 1990.
Does that generally fit with your recollections of how long those properties have been there?
Yes.
No further questions, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Commissioner Gaston, I've got one.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to clarify, we've had a couple different values thrown out today. The ending value that you are stating now is $3,932,336 for tax year 2019. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Second question for you. All of this valuation has been done on the income approach, okay? And have you given any consideration to any other approach, comparable sales approaches, comparing the the comparable properties, your property, any adjustments for age, deterioration, and other properties, anything that would have further changed the value that a willing buyer might be willing to pay for a property.
We did compare not just income-wise, but attributes or amenities with our next closest hotel, which would be the Hilton Garden Inn. As I alluded to earlier, the differences in offering with breakfast, the indoor pool, things of that nature, and how the expense ratios would increase. So there are some indirect correlations that we did review, but we did not go through a full-blown comparison.
Okay. And would the expenses of the Hilton Garden Inn, you indicated, has an indoor pool where your property has an outdoor pool, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the Hilton Garden Inn offers a full ready-to-cook breakfast where you have more of we prepare it and put it out in a buffet style, is that correct?
So the Hilton Garden Inn offers both. We do have a buffet, obviously prior to COVID, as well as cook to order, versus at Spring Hill Suites, it is only a buffet concept.
Okay. And you indicated that the operating cost did you indicate the operating cost at Spring Hill is higher than at the Hilton Garden?
Yes, because the breakfast is included in the guest room rate at Spring Hill Suites versus at Hilton Garden Inn, it is an additional cost.
Okay. And at the Hilton Garden Inn with an indoor pool and with having a ready-to-cook breakfast, would that require any higher maintenance costs or anything to have an indoor pool compared to an outdoor pool? And would having a full cooked breakfast require additional staffing compared to the other product that would basically even out the expenses or maybe make it not as expensive?
As far as the maintenance approach, yes, it is definitely a more costlier approach to have an indoor pool versus an outdoor pool, because your maintenance upkeep on the dehumidification units and the mechanical systems are far greater indoor versus the outdoor. As far as the breakfast outlay, yes, you would have additional cost for staffing, but that is a revenue stream that you're also incurring, versus at Spring Hill Suites, you have the same staffing in the kitchen as well as the servers with zero revenue stream.
Okay, so when you're talking about your expenses, you're talking about based on a percentage of revenue then. Your percentage of expense is higher based on the revenue because you don't have an additional revenue stream.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right. Let me see if I can clarify something from your exhibit. On your two area hotel property value comparisons, one's not labeled, and I guess the other one is labeled. Where if I understood you, let me find the other one. Hold on. All right, one is not labeled and the other one is.
Yes, sir.
You said that you took all this information from the tax bills. Is that what you said?
For the other hotels, the Hilton Garden Inn, Embassy Suites, and Holiday Inn Express.
But not yours then?
For Spring Hill Suites, the business personal property, the HP Financial Services, and William Scotsman were right off of the actual invoices. The real value and the total value came from the prior sheet where we did the calculations based on NOI and cap rates.
Okay, so they're not apples to apples, and even the two sheets is what, about $700,000 difference in the real property listing on one is 3.921, the other one is 3.244, but for actual the value of the real property on the tax bill would not have changed, would it?
It would not. The only reason why we changed our amounts is we are comparing back to our cap rate and NOI comparison or calculation on the prior sheet. And we're trying to add the total amount on the comparison sheet with the final total value on the cap rate sheet. And that is where we're getting apples to apples. And because from 2018 to 2019, there was a reduction of roughly 700,000 in personal property, and keeping the totals similar, that is why the real value went up from year to year.
Well, I have to say that doesn't quite make sense to me. The actual county's real property value on those years would have been somewhere 6 point something, or now they're showing 5.25, I guess. So maybe that can get pointed out later. Is the difference in the cap rate, is that what making that big change?
No, sir, the cap rates that we use are the same in both calculations of 7.1.
But I mean, it's different from the county.
Yes, sir. It is different from what the county. They're actually suggesting a higher cap rate of 12.5% or 12.5 versus the 7.1. But their expense ratio is also lower than what we are showing in reality.
All right, well, maybe you'll file that after the county presents its evidence in your cross or something.
Okay.
All right, yes, Commissioner Guest.
I'm sorry, one last question. This goes back to the cap rate that you have of 7.1%. What was the publication that established this rate for 2019?
This publication that we used was actually from HVS Hospitality.
Okay, and these are cap rates that they publish for the hospitality industry for hotels of your upper select service quality.
Correct. They actually publish for all market segments, so that is why there's a sheet of cap rates going from 5.8 to 9.5, and they cover different segments from limited service all the way to full service.
Okay, then you selected 7.1 being upper select service to describe your property.
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from commissioners? Mr. McLean, let's see, you finished your cross, I believe, Mr. Moorfield, and so Mr. McLean, any redirect? Well, you did that, I think, right?
I did, yes, sir, Your Honor.
All right, so if there's no more evidence, we'll consider all the exhibits admitted, and we'll now go to the county's evidence. Mr. Moorfield, in light of the change in value of the counties, are you going to make a motion to dismiss, or are you ready to go to your evidence?
First of all, I do want to clarify to make sure for the record that the county, objects to the admission of those revenue and expense documents from.
Right, we have that.
I think so. Well, okay, based on the summary judgment at this point, with the county's value of the real estate being as stated, mentioned over here, I mean,
Having trouble understanding, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I am too, Mr. Moorfield.
I'll have to stand up and lean over this thing, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry. Yes, again, the county would move to make a motion for summary judgment to find the value at $5,250,000, the real property at $5,250,800 as assessed by the county.
I believe the proper motion would be motion to dismiss, and in light of the change in the county's value and the case citation we have on that, I'm going to deny that. And we will go into your evidence after we take a break. It's 11:12, so let's take a short break and then come back. How many witnesses do you think you'll have?
Just one.
Just one. Any idea how long that would take for your direct?
Less than an hour.
Okay. Well, we'll try to get through at least that and see if we have to break for lunch or not. But let's come back. Let's try 8 minutes, 11:20. And if anybody's late, we'll adjust accordingly. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, I see Vice Chairman Wheeler, Commissioner Guest, Commissioner Michaud, and Attorney Steve Pelfrey, and our stenographer, Ms. Garrett, and I see Mr. McLean and his witness, Mr. Moorfield. Not quite yet. There you come. And we see Alexandra. Okay, Mr. Moorfield, when you're ready for your witness who's been sworn. Mr. Moorfield, I believe you're muted. When you go off and come back on, it always mutes us, I believe.
Alexandra, are you able to unmute them remotely?
It's showing that he's unmuted, isn't it?
We're not hearing you, Mr. Moorfield, for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
We can. You did. We just got you.
Lights just changed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Now you can call your witness.
Call Rhonda Cherry.
Good morning. My name is Rhonda Yvette Cherry. I'm an appraiser for Cumberland County for 17 and a half years.
And what is your job title?
My current job title is senior appraiser.
Ms. Cherry, incident to your job as appraiser in the Cumberland County Tax Office, have you received any training in appraisal techniques?
Yes, I have.
Would you just describe those sort of briefly for us? What's been the nature of your training?
The nature of my training, extensive training, is in Section M, but for brief and for time here, the courses that are pertinent for this case are the IAAO course 112, which is the income approach, another IAAO course 102. I have another IAAO course 300, which is the fundamental of mass appraisal, and I have been certified with the state of North Carolina since 2005.
And you say state of North Carolina, that's
Mr. McLean, excuse me, Mr. Moorfield,
yes, sir.
we're not able to see your witness. At least I'm not. Can we get a camera shot that will show her as well?
Sorry, I know that we can. I'll have to get our IT guy stepped out. I don't know why. Hang on, just give us a moment. There he is. They can't see the witness.
All right, and that's fine, and we'll listen for you, Mr. McLean. Excuse me, Mr. Moore. We've seen you, so
Yes, sir.
we'll
Thank
listen for you when you have questions or anything.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Cherry, your training, you said you've been certified by the state of North Carolina. Is that through the Department of Revenue?
Yes, it is.
And when you describe these courses, you said they were the
IAAO, which stands for International Association of Assessing Officers.
And who provided that coursework to you?
This is through the School of Government and some of them from the Department of Revenue.
In the School of Government, you referred to this UNC Chapel Hill School of Government.
Yes, sir.
And you, as is that your job as the appraiser, as the senior appraiser in Cumberland County, do you do appraisals of commercial property?
Yes, I do.
And were you the appraiser that appraised the subject the property of the Spring Hill Suites Hotel, which is the subject of this appeal?
Yes, it is. Yes, I am.
And when was that appraisal done by you? What was that for?
The appraisal was done the first time when the construction of the of Spring Hill Suites was in progress, and I placed a value when it was 61% complete for 2017. And then the full value income using the income approach was for the year 2018, which had derived at the value that was previously stated.
Now, were you doing the appraisal of the property for a revaluation year?
As of 2017, yes, sir, January 1 of 2017.
So that was the county's last reappraisal?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So your appraisal was for the value of the property on January 1st, 2017, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If you will, Sherry, maybe the simplest way to go about it would be for you to just walk us through the appraisal that you did and explain.
Let me go ahead. Without objection, I'll admit her as an expert witness and appraiser.
Stipulated, Your Honor. Stipulated.
Okay. All right. Thought it would.
If you will, then Miss, if you'll go ahead and look at County Exhibit H, and I'm looking at, you have a first sheet and that says income approach to value. See that?
Yes, sir.
And right behind that is a document that says income approach to value using upscale limited services model data. See that?
Yes, I do.
All right. Would you explain, is that a summary of the appraisal that you did for the subject property?
Yes, it is. It's a summary.
All right. Would you walk us through that and explain to the commission how you went about that?
Yes. The first thing I need to do in order to fill this summary out is determine the type of hotel that Spring Hill Suite is. And what I mean by that is determining if it's an extended stay, a limited service, or if it's a full service. If you'll look at section H, which is the Star Smith Travel Research, using this resource, Spring Hill Suites.
Let's identify that fully. You're looking at a document, I see it says STR.
Yes, STR.
2014 STR Global Chain Scales. Is that the document?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
So I use this document, our resource, to categorize the hotel based on if it's luxury, upper scale, and this particular hotel falls within the upscale. If you look on the second page, I have highlighted Spring Hill Suites and upscale for the identification for this type of hotel.
Explain a little bit what STR is.
Smith Travel Research. What STR stands for.
Okay. And what is it? Why are you using that?
This is a resource that we use for all hotels here in Cumberland County to make the determination, one, as to where these hotels sits in terms of its level, its tier, whether it's luxury.
Mr. Moorfield, let me make sure I'm finding this correct page. Ms. Cherry, can you refer me again to which page you were?
Section G, as in George.
Okay, that's where I got. Okay, now I have it.
Okay.
Thank you. I had H out.
No problem. If you will turn the second page has highlights. And the first highlight to the top left has upscale. And to the middle right, you see Hilton Spring Hill Suites.
Continue, Ms.
Thank you. So once this determination was made in the interviewing process with the owner in terms of what type of food services are provided for Spring Hill Suites, it was determined through that interview with Mr. Nimish that this is a limited service operation. And so based on those attributes, it being upper scale and limited service, this outfit was put into what we call Model 6, which is considered a limited service scale model.
When you're referring to Model 6, what is that?
Model 6 is a breakdown of the average daily rates. It has a stabilization rate of the occupancy percentage. It has a stabilization rate of the expenses. It also has a stabilization rate of the cap rate for this model.
Where do you get the Model 6 from? How did you know to use that Model 6 and stuff?
Model 6 is a part of our schedule of value that was approved for January 1, 2017.
Values used by the tax office for
Yes.
based on all.
Hotels. Yes, sir.
And were there other models other than Model 6?
Yes, there's a total of 18 models.
And you selected Model 6 using the county's 2017 schedule of values because you determined this was an upscale public service hotel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You have, right, just go ahead and
Thank you. So now we'll go to section H, which talks about the summary. So now that we have established which model this hotel is going to be placed in, this 121 room hotel, Spring Hill Suites, we have for Model 6, it has an ADR of $90. But because of the Hilton Suites location, there was a other factor that was discussed earlier, was a 1.1 because of its location that came with an adjusted average daily rate of $99. We have an occupancy rate, which is a stabilized rate that is in this model, and it has not changed. There was no adjustments to that. And as we go through the sheet, we have miscellaneous improvements, which is 0. That's what the MI stands for. I just want to break out what the MI stands for. So we have a total effective gross income of $3,060,635. I spoke about the operating expense within Model 6, which is 70%. That 70% is then subtracted from the EGI, which is effective gross income, and we derive at a net operating income at $918,190. Now the cap rate for Model 6 is 11.3. Because for ad valorem purposes, we take the taxes and we include them as an effective tax rate to come up with an overall capitalization rate. And so the taxes that all of the taxpayers actually pay, they are not allowable expenses that would be in the stabilization rate. So once I divide my net operating income by this overall cap rate, which is 12.539, we come with an initial value, which includes the FF&E of $7,322,676. As Mr. Nimish has reported, he has no problems with the reported FF&E. We have this on the sheet of $2,071,842 with a final value of real estate for 2017 of $5,250,800, which comes out to $1 per room of $43,395.
why do you make that computation of the dollar value per room?
It is to make sure that as we compare other hotels that we are unified, that are within each of those models, that we are very close per room. As Mr. Nimish mentioned before, there's not going to be too many hotels that have the same room count.
Did you in fact compare the income appraisal that you did for the subject property to the other any other hotels?
So in Model 6, if we will flip to tab 1, H1, section H, as again, tab 1. Hilton's Spring Hill Suites is the first in yellow, and I did compare them to the other 3, not only comparing them on paper, but actually went out and actually visited these locations and confirmed that these all qualify to be in Model 6 as of January 1 of 2017.
So, Mr. Chair, were these 1, 2, 3, 4 hotels, all of the hotels in Cumberland County that were classified as upscale limited service?
Yes, sir.
If you would screw that
Certainly.
So to understand, walk us through that, look at the Spring Hill Suites.
Certainly. So highlighted in yellow, as you see the room count of 121 rooms, you have the initial ADR, which is $90.
ADR stands for what?
The ADR stands for average daily rate. The other factor for this and the other three is based on their location. They are considered superior locations, so that adding that other factor brought the adjusted average daily rate to $99 per day.
Let me ask for clarification,
Sure.
Ms. Cherry. The Hilton Garden Inn, which was the other hotel owned by the taxpayer for the subject property, does not have an adjustment. What's the reason for that?
Because of its location, it is more of an interior location. It is on Sycamore Dairy, and where its location, it is not really seen from any of the, I'd say, roads that have high traffic, which is Morganton Road and All American. You can see the other three very clearly from major roads.
Right. Continue.
So we have a potential gross income of $4,372,335. As I mentioned before, Model 6 has a stabilized occupancy rate of 70, and all four of these comparable properties have the occupancy rate of 70%. We have an effective gross income of $3,060,635. Model 6 has a stabilized rate of expense ratio of 70. Hilton Spring Hill Suites has that same stabilization percentage of 70. That equates to a net operating income of $918,190 in terms of net operating income. Next, we have a cap rate, and that cap rate is what the model has in Model 6, which is 11.3. It is then added the effective tax rate, and that effective tax rate is a combination of city and county tax rate back in 2016 for January 1, 2017 assessment. Adding those two rates together, having an overall capitalization rate of 12.539. When you divide the NOI by that cap rate, you have a total value of $7,322,676. And this is $60,518 with no FF&E, that is per room. And all of those, as you can see, are very much within close in proximity, except for the Hilton Garden, which was previously appealed. And as I move on, each of the properties had a reporting of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, which is what FF&E stands for. Spring Hill Suites had a reported $2,071,842 of furniture, fixtures, and equipment, coming up with a final value for just the real estate of $5,250,800 for 2017. And this equates to $43,395 per room, or rather per key.
Mr. Chair, I noticed, like, looking at the effective cap rate, it's only different for the Courtyard Marriott in Spring Lake. Is that because Spring Lake has a different tax rate?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And start off with a base cap rate for all four of them of 11.3%. You said you have that from the schedule of values that have been adopted by the Board of Commissioners.
The cap rate was on our, yes, our models.
Or Model 6.
Yes, that was approved. Yes, sir.
So another model classification for a hotel could have had a different cap rate.
Absolutely.
And did not establish the cap rate. You just used the cap rate that you had to on the schedule of values. Is that correct?
Correct.
Looking at these, Mr. Mehta's area hotel property value comparison that he had talked about, he showed the Holiday Inn Express. Okay, you've got on Mr. Mehta's area hotel property comparison, he shows HGI, that's the Hilton Garden Inn, correct?
Okay.
That's Hilton Garden Inn HGI.
Correct. It's the same thing. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you know when that hotel, he is showing that was built in 2004, is that?
Yeah, that is correct.
He is showing the Embassy Suites. You're not showing the Embassy Suites as on your comparison. Why not?
Because they're not comparable. Embassy Suites has a rating of an upscale, so it does not fall into this model.
So that's from the SDR data that you use. Okay. Mr. Meta shows a Holiday Inn Express. That's also not shown on your comparisons.
Holiday Inn Express is in a different model as well.
Because of its classification.
Because of classification, yes, sir.
And I think you said, so these four are all of the hotels that have this same classification.
Yes, sir.
You know when the Hilton Garden Inn was built? Do you have any data on that?
I just know it was in 2004.
Oh, so you know that one. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The courtyards at the Courtyard Marriott's, or
I can concur that the Courtyard at Marriott CC was back in 1990, and the Courtyard Marriott at Spring Lake was in 2016. So the dates that were previously given were confirmed.
you did not use Hilton Inn, Holiday Inn Express as Mr. Meta did in his area hotel property value comparison, because in your opinion it is not a comparable hotel.
Absolutely, based on our tiers and based on the instructions that we have in the model, all within Model 6.
And Ms. Cherry, County's Exhibit H2 is just another, it says Model 6 valuation comparison of similar hotels. There again, you use the same four that you showing the same STR hotel classification subscale.
Yes, sir.
Terry, did you use any other approach to valuation to confirm or give an idea about the accuracy of your income approach? Did you do any other appraisal using other methods for comparison purposes or otherwise?
We use the cost approach, and the cost approach is in section I as in igloo. And it is broken down, I'll give a couple of seconds, by the land first, making sure that the land value can be supported. And so this spreadsheet here is just of 3 vacant land sales that took place prior to 2017. And as you can see, they identify the parcel, their location. They're all 3 in the same neighborhood as the subject. The sales prices are indicated there. The size of each of the lots. There were no adjustments made to any of the comparables. So these are just straight line price per square foot. I have a median of $3.08. I have a mean of $3.53. The subject property land is at $3.17. So it falls well within the sales comparison.
So this was just for the land, correct?
Correct. This was just for the land. And the title of this document says vacant land comparable sales. Next is just a map to show the location of these 3 sales properties. Next, you will have a breakdown of the cost approach summary. And in this, it gives you the year built, which was 2017, the condition of the building, which is an excellent. I gave a quality grade of a 450. The square footage of the entire building is 91,447 square feet. Going to the replacement cost new is what RCN stands for, and that is $10,805,374. The The depreciation for this building, very little, is $108,054. As you see, the interior finish is a hotel. It's 100% a hotel. When you take each of the yellow highlights and add them all together, which is the land, which is a $360,180, the building, which is $10,697,317, and the miscellaneous improvements, which encompasses the swimming pool, the asphalt and sidewalks, and all of those are mentioned to the left and right. You have a total of miscellaneous value of $224,754. So your cost approach has a value of $11,282,256.
Where did you identify the replacement cost new? It's a gross figure of $10,805,371. How did you determine that figure?
If you will flip to section L as in Larry, there's a breakdown of the property record card. And so this property record card gives all the attributes, value attributes based on the quality, the construction of the building, the air conditioning, the sprinkler systems. All of these attributes have value-based reasonings for them to be there. And so when you look at your story height, your perimeter, this all computates into a value. Then the quality grade will then be multiplied to the fully depreciated building, coming up with a value, a total building value of the $10,697,317. So this property record card gives you a nice breakdown of this 5-story building.
How are you I see the quality of the type of building and the square footage and the depreciation grade quality, but how are you making it? How does all that? How do you get the value? A commercial building starting out with $10,697,317 in the top line on that. Various other things added to it. But how did you get that base value of $10,697,317?
If you'll flip into the second and third page, it requires you to be there during construction to see exactly what type of construction and materials this building is going to be and watch as it progresses. So this is considered a concrete masonry type building. The entire building is climate controlled. Again, its interior finish is a hotel. It does have sprinkler systems throughout the whole entire building. Its exterior siding is broken into 3 different types of exterior walls, construction block and stucco. It does have a stone veneer, and then it has ribbed split stone. And each of those percentages of that building have been broken down based on its square footage of linear feet of each of these finishings. The bathrooms throughout the whole entire building has been attributed here. And so there's a breakdown of everything in this whole entire building. And that's how the cost was derived.
Is that a calculation that you perform, or did you get that from this property tax code?
This is a computation from all of the costs that have been put in the system based on the approval of the schedule of value that have already been put in place in the system once it was approved. These cost tables already in the system.
So these all were determined from cost tables
Correct.
included in the schedule of values?
Absolutely.
Did you do a sales?
There is a sales approach that is section J as in Jack, sales approach. So all 3 approaches are in here. And so as you get to section J, highlighted is the Spring Hill Suite, but you'll also notice that comparable properties were in Durham County. We did not have any sale of comparable for Spring Hill Suites. So we went to Durham County. And as you see, Durham County, we have the Sleep Inn, Raleigh, Homewood Suites and Comfort Suites. All of this information was confirmed by Durham County, and it was provided with them, and went back and made sure that we had the right data and all the right information with the repeat sales that you see there for the Homewood Suites and for Comfort Suites.
Here's that the Spring Hill Suites in Cumberland County, room value at 43,395, fell within the, actually below.
Below, it fell below.
And the
Yes, sir.
median.
Yes, in comparison, yes, sir. As it should.
I believe, Sherry, if you look at Exhibit K, and Kevin,
Okay.
summary of opinion of value, that's a summary of the opinion or income approach of 5,250,800, cost approach of 11,282,256, and you did not really state an opinion of value, but a simple approach.
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I'm best at this point.
All right, Mr. So you through with this witness, Mr. Moorfield, and ready for Mr. McLean to cross?
Yes, sir.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cherry, I guess still morning. Good morning. My name is Trey McLean. How are you doing this morning?
Well, thank you, and good morning to you.
Thank you very much. First off, and I don't mean to jump around, let's go to, trying to flip around here. I believe it's tab or exhibit. I'm calling these exhibits. I know you're saying tab, but it's the same thing. N is in Nancy. Are these excerpts from the 2017 reevaluation manual?
You said N as in Nancy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. This is from our
Okay.
schedule.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, I have it here.
My question was, I'm just asking you to identify them. Are these excerpts that you prepared from the manual, the appraisal manual, or the evaluation manual?
Schedule of value, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'll use the right, the 2017 schedule of value, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. And did you prepare this entire exhibit book?
Minus the photos.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I'm just asking.
Yes,
All right.
sir.
Going to the excerpts from the revaluation schedule for 2017, isn't the income approach preferred for income producing property under that schedule?
Yes, sir.
And that is, we'll strike that, okay. All right, going to, again, a tab or exhibit H1. I want to make sure I understand some of your testimony. Did you testify that these were all of these four properties, excuse me, were all of the upper select, or I guess, let me see if that's the upscale, excuse me, under the STR global kind of rubric in the county? Did I hear you correctly say that?
I will expand. It is the upscale limited service. So though
Okay,
they're in upscale, but upscale limited service.
But these four properties constitute all of the upscale limited services within the county?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's why you prepared this Model 6 table?
Yes.
Okay. Going to the, I guess, 1, 2, 3, the fourth column over, it says total ADR. $90. Is that the ADR prescribed for Model 6 under the 2017 reval schedule?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Then you applied for 3 of the 4 properties I'll say 10%, a 0.1 modifier. Is that correct? An
Yes,
adjustment. All right. If I understood correctly, you said that that was for location or visibility.
Correct.
Which one is it? Location and visibility, or one or the other?
Well, for your location, that gives you good superior visibility. So it's a location, it's both.
So when you're saying visibility, it's visibility from what?
Visibility, being able to be seen from main veins, as I gave the example of Morganton Road, Skybow Road, All American,
Okay.
Highway 7, Highway 210.
All right. And so that I understand, the Hilton Garden Inn did not receive the adjustment because you deemed that to, or it was deemed, strike that, it was deemed to not have the same visibility or location as the other 3?
Mean that I didn't value that, I wouldn't know how to answer that question, but.
Well, let me ask it this way. You prepared this table to be presented to the commission today, is that correct?
Correct.
And it is at your testimony that these figures are based upon the Model 6 of the 2017 revaluation schedule?
Yes.
And is it your testimony that the values indicated herein represent the true values under the statute?
Yes, sir.
All right, going to these adjustments, can you explain to me here today how that particular adjustment was arrived at? Are you able to tell me that, talk to me about that today?
Which adjustment are we talking about, sir?
All right, well, we'll deal with each one. We'll deal first with the Hilton Garden Inn. I'm reverse order from the bottom. No adjustment was applied to the Hilton Garden Inn. Is that correct? For the ADR. Let me strike that. Let me be more specific. No adjustment to the ADR was applied to the Hilton Garden Inn. Is that correct? I'm sorry, I think there might be buffering. Oh. Mr. Chair, did we lose the county?
Okay, Mr. Moorfield, we've lost your video. Do we still have your audio? Oh, it looks like we have lost him for a second, so let's hold on for a minute. There she is back. Miss Cherry, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
We can now. We lost you there for a second. So Mr. McLean was asking you a question.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm going to back up and try. I don't know where she lost me or not, so I'm going to try to back up a little bit. Ms. Cherry, we were talking about the Hilton Garden Inn, the last hotel on the list. You recall that?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. And I was addressing the 5th column, other factors.
Yes, sir.
And there is a 1.00 in that column next to. Are they gone again? Sorry, they're next to the Hilton Garden Inn. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that means that no adjustment was applied to the ADR for the Hilton Garden Inn. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Why?
The presumption would be that their location is not superior to the subject. You can barely see it from any of the main veins, and so there was not any adjustment warranted for this ADR.
Okay, going to the next property, I'm going in reverse order, the Courtyard by Marriott Spring Lake. Again, looking at that 4th and 5th, sorry, the 5th and 6th column, there was a 0.1 adjustment, which essentially was a 10% adjustment up of the ADR to an adjusted ADR of $99. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
First off, it's your testimony that it was adjusted in comparison to the Hilton Garden Inn up 10% because it has superior location and visibility. Is that correct?
It was not based on the Hilton Garden, it was based on their location.
Okay, then what is the baseline that you're adjusting from? Do you understand my question? I mean, let me strike that. Let me try it this different way. Are you familiar with a paired sales or a paired analysis?
In respects to?
Appraising properties.
Yes, sir.
A paired sales analysis. How did the county arrive at a 10% adjustment for the Courtyard by Marriott Spring Lake property?
In this particular model, when I was looking at the location for the Spring Hill Suite and identifying the locations for the already assigned property, so I'm looking at the Courtyard Marriott, looking at the Courtyard Marriott Spring Lake, and looking at Spring Hill Suites, and looking at their location as being superior, and a 1.1 was identified as for the location, I continued this trend with the Spring Hill Suites.
What does Model 6 give you what the adjustment is to be?
No, there is no adjustment in the model for location.
So I guess my question is, why is it a 0.1, not 0.05 or 0.15 adjustment?
I can flip you to section H4 where you have the host almanac.
4, uh-huh.
And if you look at the 2014, 15, and 16 ADRs, average daily rates for all three of these years, you'll have a 94.33. 2015, you'll have 102.58. And then for 2016, you have $106.31. So one, based on the model, which is $90, and based on the location, I was still within the parameters. And so that was a rate that was multiplied based on the locations of the other two properties of similar and like locations to Spring Hill Suites.
Okay, so that I understand, you're using these tables attached as tab H4, is that correct?
There were added resources that we can use. Yes, sir.
And Model 6 called for an initial ADR of $90 for the Spring Hill Suite, that's correct?
Correct.
And then reviewing those tables, you decided that there needed to be a 10% upwards adjustment, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And is it your testimony that that upward adjustment had already been applied to other properties?
To the Courtyard Marriott and to the Courtyard Marriott by Spring Lake, yes.
Okay. Let's go to H3, and which is the map of the properties in Model 6. And did you prepare this map, Ms. Cherry, or at least put it in the book?
I prepared it and put it in the book.
All right. And you put the blowouts to identify each of the properties?
Yes, sir.
That's my word, whatever you got, the box, the boxes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the subject property, the Spring Hill Suites, is identified as the blue property.
Yes, sir.
And the Hilton Garden Inn is identified as the, well, there's a blowout box, but it's a red property on the other side of it, looks like a half clover leaf.
Yes.
And then there is the Courtyard by Marriott, excuse me, which is just, it looks like just down the road from the Hilton Garden Inn. Is that correct?
Correct.
But looking at this map, isn't it reasonable to say that at least in terms of vicinity, that those three properties are pretty close together?
In mileage, yes, they are.
What is this considered the Cross Creek area, or what area is this considered for purposes kind of geography?
Are we talking about the Courtyard, Marriott, and Hilton, or are you talking about the subject?
Well, let's talk about the subject first.
The subject is not considered in the Cross Creek area. It's in another neighborhood.
Okay, what neighborhood is that one? If you know. If you
For
don't.
numeric purposes, no, I do not. For numeric purposes, it's identified as 8055 is the neighborhood code, and for Cross Creek, it is 8018.
Going to the Courtyard at Marriott by Marriott is Cross Creek. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What about the Hilton Garden Inn?
Yes, sir.
All right. And obviously, the Spring Lake property is not Cross Creek.
I agree with you.
Going to the subject property, and I know it's hard. I wish I brought my magnifying glass. What main arterial road is the subject property fronting, if any?
It is fronting Lakewood, but you can
Lake Valley?
Lake Valley, excuse me, thank you. But you can see it from All American. You can see it signage from All American.
Going to the Courtyard at Marriott,
Yes.
what's the visibility? Let's strike that question. Going to the Courtyard at Marriott, what is the main arterial road that you are saying that it is visible from?
Worthington Road and All American.
Mm-hmm. But it fronts what road?
Sycamore Dairy.
Okay. What road is the Hilton Garden Inn on?
Sycamore Dairy. Further down.
Any idea how close they are on the road?
I have never tracked it, so I couldn't say.
Okay, but all right. But based upon the visibility of the properties, Spring Hill and Courtyard, is your determination that they, for purposes of this model, should have a higher ADR than Hilton Garden Inn? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Going back to H1, tab, exhibit, whatever you want to call it. Let's go to 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it's about the 8th or 9th column over is the expense ratio. Excuse me. How was the 70% expense ratio established for the subject property, Spring Hill?
Because it is a stabilized rate within Model 6.
So that's what Model 6 called for, is that correct?
Correct.
The same for the Courtyard at Marriott as well as the Spring Lake Marriott Courtyard, excuse me.
Correct.
But the Hilton Garden Inn rate is different, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's still within Model 6, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
So is it appropriate or proper? Strike that question. Is it proper for, strike that. Is it allowable in Model 6 for properties to have expense ratios higher than 70%?
Again, this property, as previously mentioned, it was appealed in 2017. And so with that appeal, and as he mentioned, the appeal was with Mr. Utley. This was an expense ratio that both parties had agreed upon during that appeal for 2017.
But you still added it to this list, is that correct?
Because it's still within Model 6. It's
Right.
just.
And you just testified that those figures represented the true value according to the county, is that correct?
Ask your question again.
And you just testified a few minutes ago that this table represented the true values of these properties, isn't that correct?
Yes, I did.
Going to tab 4 of Exhibit H, at the host almanacs. Is there any part of those tables that adjust for visibility or proximity to a major arterial highway?
No.
So that adjustment you did based upon your experience, is that correct?
Yes, sir. And being fair and equitable and looking at the other properties and what was done to them based on their location.
Mm-hmm. Have you undertaken any studies to confirm that this visibility has that effect on the average daily rates of these hotels?
I did not.
But you could confirm that, couldn't you? You could ask them what their average daily rates are, isn't that correct? And compare
Yes.
them?
We do ask and send out surveys to all hotels and motels, and in hopes that they would send back the survey and the information.
Mr. Chair, I'm almost done. If I could just have a minute to look at my notes real quickly, I think I'm about ready to wrap it for the second.
All right.
I'm ready. Ms. Cherry, did you hear any of Mr. Maida's testimony earlier?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you hear his testimony regarding the Hilton Garden Inn brand as being in comparison to the Spring Hill brand?
Yes, I heard it 3 different times. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do you have any data, qualitative or quantitative, to dispute Mr. Maida's testimony about the relative status of those brands?
Being that the Hilton Garden was not the subject for this appeal, Mr. Maida's, the information that Mr. Maida provided me with the ADR is well above the $99 ADR that was listed here on Section H, number 1. He provided a.
My question was about just comparing the two. I understand, but just comparing the two, do you have any data to dispute his testimony that the Hilton Garden Inn brand is a superior brand to the Spring Hill Suites?
Yes, based on the Smith Travel Research.
And what does that say?
It gives the brand of upscale.
Right. But are you saying each one of those brands on that Smith Travel Research is exactly the same? I mean, is that your contention in terms of brand status?
In order to be fair and equitable for mass appraisal, this is one of the resources that we use to determine how to categorize the hotels that are here.
Mm-hmm. Were you aware that the level of service provided by Hilton Garden Inn is higher than that provided by the Spring Hill Suites?
In my working this appeal, yes, I did. But it wasn't as such to knock it outside of this model.
Understood. Sitting here today, your opinion of true value for the real estate portion of this property, make sure I understand it, is $5,250,000 and $800. $5,250,800. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
All right. So redirect.
Yes,
Mr.
very
Warfield.
briefly. Ms. Cherry, looking back at tab G, exhibit G, the STR global chain scales.
Yes, sir.
In response to Mr. McLean's question of did you have anything to back up saying the Hilton Garden Inn was the same category as Spring Hill Suites? If you look at page 2 where you've highlighted Spring Hill Suites on the upscale page, it has a designation beside it of 1438. Look in the middle of that at 309. That's Hilton Garden Inn. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's the data that you're referring to.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Cherry, did you, in terms of getting any information about the revenue expenses for the subject property, did you interview Mr. Mayer?
Yes, I did.
Mr. Mayer, Mr. Mayer who's testified that you did interview him about this information?
Yes, sir.
And did you use the information that you derived from the interview as part of your process?
I took in the information and considered it. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, we've just moved in all the Calvin County's exhibits. I think there's been no objection to the.
No objection, Mr. Chair.
All right. Questions, commissioners? Mr. Guest, Commissioner Guest.
Okay, thank you. So just a few questions. The valuation, you've placed the most weight on the income approach. You did do a sales comparison approach and you used facilities in a different county. And when those facilities were sold in Durham County, were they sold furnished? Do you know if there were any furnishings included in the valuations?
I asked them specifically if those sales pricing that they provided me included any FF&E, and they said no. That was the raw real estate.
Okay, thank you. Let's now ask you a question about your cost approach. Okay, and the cost approach that you have, was the cost approach established using the values in your schedule of value, or did the taxpayer actually provide you with the actual cost of construction on the property?
The cost was used based on the schedule of value that was approved for January 1, 2017.
Okay, so you don't have details on what it actually cost or what the building permits values were pulled or anything like that to correlate the cost?
I saw them, but I don't have them memorized today.
Okay, all right. So when we now talk about the valuation and using the income approach, the biggest differences we have here is the net operating income and the capitalization rate. Okay, so did the taxpayer provide to you their financial information to show you their actual net operating income?
Yes.
Okay. Did you utilize their actual net operating income to arrive at the figures you used?
In our communication, I asked him in our discussing with all the resources that he talked about that he used his data from, I asked him specifically, was he able to provide any additional information, 14, 15, and 16, since he has this vast knowledge of this industry? And he did not, he just provided his own. But I also told him that our numbers are based on the stabilization, and he does have a stabilization on here provided. It's still
Okay.
2018.
And were you able to, he has provided some exhibits that show his exhibit A2. His exhibit A2 shows Spring Hill Suites Marriott, and it has a center column called Complete Year 2019. And on the second page of that, if we come down, third line from the bottom, it has net operating income, $427,246. Have you had an opportunity to see this or review this?
I looked at that. We also discussed, and we understand that when a hotel is just starting out, they're going to have excessive expenses based on it being their first year out of the gate. And this operation started June of 2018. So I understood that it would be excessive, but it wasn't the stabilized rates as we have researched, and all of our rates are based off of stabilization.
Okay. And so you didn't look at this and actually then contemplate or find out if maybe they had excessive owner salaries or anything that would be an add back that would have changed the NOI to get closer to your number. All right. Your capitalization rate is a higher capitalization rate than the taxpayer used. The higher capitalization rate actually results in a lower value. Yeah. Where did you obtain your information to establish your capitalization rates? I know it's in your schedule of values, but where do those come from?
Thank you. If you'll go to section H as in Henry, tab 4. And I have provided you the quarters, the second and first quarter for 2016 in the realtyrates.com, the investor survey.
Okay.
And you will look at both. Second quarter has an OAR and surveyed rate 11.45 and 11.22. And then if you go to the first quarter of 2016, have 11.53 and 11.22.
Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Ms. Cherry, all these figures that you've used in these exhibits here come up to the figure, the real property valuation of $5,250,800. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But yet, originally you had it appraised at about $1 million more.
Yes, sir.
And you contended that was the fair market value. We don't see any of those figures and how you arrived at them. So apparently you prepared all this after the initial, the valuations went out. And the valuations, I guess, were used in 2018. And in 2019, they were sent out. And now you've adjusted them. Can you kind of explain? So everything we're looking at now is based on this new, which you say is accurate. So can you kind of explain us why the others weren't accurate?
Very simple. It was put into the wrong model initially. It was put into another model. And after doing more speaking with Mr. Meade and looking at everything, Model 6 should have been the initial model that this property should have been in, with the average daily rate of $90, with the occupancy rate of 70%, with the expense rate of 70%, and the initial cap rate of 11.3, which is now by this value.
So that explains it. Okay. Other commissioners have questions? All right, it's almost 12:30. Why don't we go ahead and take a lunch break? And then we come back, we'll have your arguments, and then we'll deliberate on this case. 12:27. Can we shoot for 1:15? Will that give people who think enough? All right, let's come back at 1:15 then. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, I'll let you guys go. Get your quick break.
Okay. That's a mess.